residual, or excuse me, we don't know what the payoff will be at the end, if any, and so there won't be any trade-in.
I don't think you're on the same
No,
page. I'm on the narrow banding.
Narrow banding.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about
Item number 12.
At the very end of it, it talks about an option to lease. And while it goes through the 12-month lease, it also talks about all these other leases. And what I don't really see is what would be the actual cost over the same period of time for all of these various leases. Well, there are all these other fees too.
It's all inclusive.
I think staff's recommendation was the outright purchase because as you can see, the leases seem like they're going to be an additional expenditure over the length of the time. I think it is laid out and it's a little confusing. We could break that down for you.
Yeah. See, sorry, Mr. Mayor, maybe I can assist slightly. The California Constitution requires that you treat a lease as if it were all due and payable in year one. So we don't really save anything other than spreading the cash. And when interest rates are incredibly low on what we're receiving, it's almost, finance directors will tell you, it's almost better to use your own cash because you have to keep that amount of money in reserve for all those years. You can't spend it. It's encumbered in year one because of the Constitution. Basically you can't spend more than you have, and what that means is they treat a lease as if we're all due in the first year. So since you're basically encumbering that amount of money, most finance directors will tell you when interest rates are low like they are now, it's sort of silly to leave it in the bank because you're making next to nothing, and if you lease it, you're paying much higher interest rates.
Well, you may be paying much higher interest rates, but I'm just not sure how much higher you end up at the end of the day for that period of time that you'd be using those portables. And during that period of time, do they absorb, when you lease it, don't they pay, if something goes wrong with it, don't they repair it?
No, I don't believe there's any warranty on those once we accept those electronics.
Unless, I'm sorry, so many people were talking up here, unless you accept what?
I think that once we own them, we experienced the same thing with our Motorola's. Once we had them, we didn't have a warranty on those, for damage or problems with them.
So under a lease, if something goes wrong, we have to repair them?
Yes, just like you lease a car, unless you have a special patent, some Mercedes and BMW had programs where they would pay, but otherwise, once the warranty period is up, you're on your own.
And when the lease is done, we have to give the equipment back or pay an extension to the lease. So it ends up being costing more.
So this is going to be, has anyone in the finance department looked at this and said it's the most cost-effective, or Bill, have you looked at it? Is this the most cost-effective way of doing it?
Yeah, I would go with the purchase on this, and I did do some research also into this narrow banding, because some of the radios that Motorola has actually can be redirected to be narrow band, and we could have potentially avoided these costs. But I spoke with Lieutenant Wade yesterday, and he confirmed to me that these were not of that model, and actually some of the radios we have are actually hand-me-downs from another town, and so they definitely need to be replaced. So really, based on where we are and the fact that it would have to be treated as a capital lease, it doesn't seem to be making any sense to even go with a 4-year lease or a 5-year lease, because we probably will use these things longer than the 5 years, and we would have to extend the lease and go on to a peppercorn lease, and it would cost us even more money.
Okay.
I think one more point is the money, the interest we're earning on our money right now is not very high as a town, and the interest implied in these lease rates is much higher. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'll make a motion that we approve item number 12.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item that was pulled was
Motorcycles.
13.
We currently own 3 police motorcycles, but in the past, I remember Chief Brennan telling us that we only had 1 police officer at most who could use a motorcycle. Do we intend to have more than 1 police officer on a motorcycle at a time?
That's correct, Councilmember McKeithen. We have Brad Mills, who is school trained, and we are going to be putting him through a brush-up course. So when these bikes come online, he'll be up and riding, and we'll double our motorcycles out on the street and be able to cover the entire week as part of our traffic safety program with those bikes.
So even though we normally only have 3 officers on a shift at a time, 2 of them could be on motorcycles.
That's our basic patrol, but we also have some motor officers that augment those patrol teams during the week.
That's true. It says the general life expectancy is 4 years, but we haven't used our motorcycles, as you may know, very much in the past, because on the Transportation Committee we keep asking that they be used, and for a long time we were told they couldn't be used after Officer Schneider left. And then you're right, we had someone come in and fill in for a short period of time. So what kind of condition are these 3 bikes in? Are the repairs so costly? What do the repairs look like on an annual basis?
Well, I rechecked the analysis. Staff said that we're having increasing breakdowns and repairs, and from the time those bikes are 10 years old, by the way.
Yes.
That's probably about twice the industry standard. They're in the 40,000 mile range. They're at the low end of the mile range, but the age is twice what the industry standard would be. When we look at the, and I've got a breakdown that Councilman Whitmer has up there, going back to about 2006, when those bikes came off warranty, you can see an increase, not every year, but there's an increase of maintenance costs. There's approximately $15,000 in maintenance costs since 2006 on those bikes. And those costs are going to continue because they're old and they have a lot of wear and tear on them. That's almost enough money to have purchased at least another new bike during that, at the lower prices.
Okay. And it says the finance director has confirmed the vehicle replacement fund will support the purchase. Is that Louise Ho?
That's Louise Ho's.
And she actually did this confirmation?
Yes, she did.
And indeed, even though the cost to lease is $52,960, which is only about $5,000 more than the outright purchase, that would not include maintenance and repair. We'd have to buy a separate contract.
Not on the bikes. We have, those will be covered for 39 months.
That's if you purchase them.
It's the same warranty regardless of how we purchase, how we obtain the bikes, lease or purchase.
But if you wanted the extension beyond the 39 months for the full lease period of the 48 months, you'd have to buy coverage.
If it's even available. I don't believe that it's available.
All right, thank you very much.
I would ask a question here. You know, we are in a tight financial bind in the town. If we put purchasing those bicycles off for one more year, what would the result be?
The result would probably be, there's probably 2 or 3 things that would come into play. First, we'd lose the great bid jumping on the bandwagon with San Diego Police Department getting on their bid and getting the price. There would probably be at least 1, if not 2 price increases, according to BMW. And 3, we have a window of opportunity here to get about $3,500 per motorcycle trade-in on our old bikes. There's no guarantee that a year down the road we'd get that same, and if we were to have a catastrophic mechanical failure on those bikes, all bets are off.
Okay. Well, I guess we need a motion on...
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think we have now covered all the items that were pulled out.
the police
14
vehicle
14 we
purchase.
talked about.
Yes, that was I had a question about the fact that, one, they look to be already purchased, and two, I thought that we purchased a couple recently. I thought we accelerated a purchase of a police vehicle either last year or the year before because of the fact that it was damaged beyond repair.
I'm not familiar with that. I do know this from past experience in many years of dealing with ordering police cars, is that whoever the manufacturer is that's running or producing the police cars that the agencies are buying, they're only going to run those cars once or twice a year. So you actually have to get your bid, and you just can't call the local dealership and say, send me 2 squad cars, we need to. So Chief Mike Guerra had ordered those over a year ago, realizing that we'd have, the vehicle replacement fund would be there to replace vehicles getting around the 100,000 mile range. So those vehicles were in fact ordered and then on the Redwood City bid and were brought over to the courtyard recently.
Okay. One last question, I'm sorry, with regard to that. I noticed that there is a statement, and I'll ask you, Bill, about this, that this is done without going through, it says the additional work of going through the competitive bid process. Is that, there's no problem with this?
That's correct. Mr. Mayor, what the law requires is we either competitively bid it or we get them from somebody else that has. And we always check, and Redwood City has in fact gone through the bid process, as has San Diego with the motorcycles and with the radios. When the law allows us to buy off of somebody else's, I think they call it a bid list. And as long as they've bid it and complied with the California competitive laws, we're good to use their bid.
Okay, good. I'll move to approve.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is future agenda items by, the first one by Councilmember Carlson and Lewis about the master facility plan. You want to discuss this?
I don't think we can discuss it, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a matter of trying to get approval to have it on the agenda so we can discuss it in the future.
Well, I would like to say, I think we can state our case. I think, so Councilmember Carlson and I are requesting that council put an item on the next council agenda for discussion and action. And the reason we are asking for this is because so many residents have come forward and expressed their desire to have a master plan for the town. This seems to be the prudent and conservative approach. I would like to read our request. It says, the town shall undertake the project for a master plan of all the town facilities incorporating the planning that has already been done by the Library Steering Committee and the Town Center Task Force, and also incorporating the existing library site, the existing council chamber site, and all other town facilities, including building, planning, public works, maintenance yard, police department, historical association, library, arts, and other town-related facilities, including those in the park and those in the town center area. The master plan is to be completed within 6 months and is not intended to delay the processes underway for either the new library or the new town center projects. The council will allocate up to $100,000 for the project from the $1.8 million fund that the building department allocated on a pro rata basis, with the library fund paying its pro rata share. The purpose of the town master plan is to evaluate all the service requirements for our town residents and to ensure the facilities will accommodate the needs in the most economical and effective means possible. And we respectfully request that this item be on the next regular council agenda.
I think we're making a big issue of this master plan and it's needed. I just reviewed a master plan today that Phil Lively, one of our residents, had drawn up in 2 days. It was actually very, very detailed. And, you know, I think it probably answered 99% of all the questions that anybody could ask about a master plan. So I personally don't see any particular reason to put this on the agenda.
I saw the same thing today, Mayor, and I think that I concur. I think it's a very innovative approach. And I would expect that if we could put this on the agenda, that would be one of the options that we would talk about, and not necessarily spend lots of money on it, but to say that, okay, a master plan is desirable, and we need to have an interactive workshop or whatever it might be, and see what we come up with.
Well, I'd suggest that Phil Lively bring his proposed master plan. We can set a time where it's in the council chambers or in one of the conference rooms, and then before we put this on the agenda, we notify everybody that a master plan prepared by one of our residents is available for viewing, and I'm sure that everybody can look at it. And then my feeling is it looks to me like we're making a much bigger issue of it than is needed.
My feeling is that I'm all in favor of a master plan for the new town center. Other than that, the EIR is looking at the library and where it believes the best location for a library should be, and we have already selected the park as a preferred location preliminarily, but subject to an amendment of the park master plan. So we already said the park master plan should be amended. And I believe that there are aspects of this proposal that are illegal, namely the usage of the funds. So I don't think it's appropriate to pass this.
Usage of
Usage of what?
The
Illegal
funds.
What funds?
The funds from the building department and from the library.
Why would it be illegal?
The library can't be used to pay for a master plan, I don't believe, and I don't believe you can take building department funds for a master plan. It can only be used for building department purposes, not for a general master plan. That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
Oh, but you're saying it as if it's that.
No, I said it's my opinion.
What?
I said I believe.
Well, as we said last time when we had the meeting on the 8th, I think getting an overall plan is a good thing for the town. I don't think we should be using the master plan as a superseding for the library decision. I think the EIR is going to cover that. So I do support, and I suggested at the last meeting that when we make our capital plan, that we actually put money in there and properly budget for it, because my understanding on the building department fund from Louise, who's not here to defend, say one way or the other, she said that could only be used for replacement of the building department facilities. So, perhaps a pro rata share of it might be appropriate, I don't know, but what she'd said, that was a special fund, it would be exhausted in 5 years if we don't spend any of it, and it would have to be returned through the rate structures. But it couldn't be used for other things other than the building department. And that was from Louise, and we mentioned that in the finance committee. So we talked to her about that. And I don't see why the library fund would be paying for something. So I do think a plan is good. If the town wants to have a plan, we should have a plan. I think that I agree with the mayor that I don't think the plan is overly complex. But Mr. Danielson and Mr. Peshawagi said that it's going to cost them between $100,000 and $150,000. We don't have it in the capital budget at this point in time, and if we want to do it, then we should plan for it as to be effective in the new fiscal year.
Could we agree to agendize a master plan for the town center so that we can discuss it as an agenda item?
I vote that we do not put this item on the future. I will make a motion that we do not put this item on the future agenda.
Yeah, I think it's something the Town Center Task Force should discuss and should have been doing.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
No.
Opposed?
3-2.
There's one more.
Excuse me.
I think the other one was.
Mr. Mayor, just so we understand the rules, if you don't say anything, it counts as a yes.
Okay, but I told him no.
Yeah, so we need to have it on the record so that
I think we just pulled
the.
it.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, the next item, council, the council reports. Another item is the poll town voters, also put on by Councilmember Lewis and Councilmember Carlson.
Mr. Mayor, let's just take that off the docket. We discussed that earlier tonight. That was put on, was offered before the regular agendas.
Okay, so you're pulling this off?
Yes, sir.
All right, okay, thank you. Well, that brings us to the last item, which is public comments. Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.